Get set, podcast listener, and be ready to win with your mentor, motivator, and marketer, Cam Roberts. Grow your business and achieve your goals quickly with the latest tips, tools, and tactics on business success and marketing. Subscribe now and download your free resources at camroberts.com.au.
Hey everyone, Cam Roberts here, your friend in business, success and marketing. Thank you for joining the podcast show. Now, today's special guest is Michele, and Michele is a holistic business coach. She helps entrepreneurs launch and grow their mission-driven business, live their best possible life, and increase their impact and prosperity through mastery of their unique soul success strategy. So, Michele, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cam.
Now, Michele, I've got to ask you, I've interviewed a lot of coaches, consultants, business coaches, but you're specifically a holistic business coach. How did you get into that industry? And more importantly, what's the difference between a holistic business coach and an ordinary business coach?
Yeah, great question. So the way that I work with people is really two-part. The first aspect is before they come to someone like you, a marketing agency or a marketing service provider, ideally, it's important to really understand who you are on a deep level and understand from a soul perspective what your mission is here to do and who you're here to serve. And that really sometimes gets lost in the mix as we get other people involved. And, we start to fall further and further away from sometimes what our original intention was.
Right.
And so it's really important to design a business around you and your gifts, as opposed to, the other way around of let's do what's potentially lucrative or, available. And so that's one part of it. The other is really looking at the marketing aspect, and not every business needs to do every single type of marketing, and I think that can be really confusing for many different types of people because we all have the potential to do so many strategies, and it's great to be aware of everything that's out there, but what is the right fit for you, and looking at it from a perspective of spiritual design. And so, those are a few of the aspects I look at from a strategic standpoint. And I also look at what is going on in their life in total. So their entire wheel of life, from environmental factors, relationships, health, and what is blocking them in those areas that are actually affecting their business as well. So I really kind of combine many different traits and backgrounds that I've acquired over time to really help people customize their business design effectively.
Excellent. So there was a couple of things that you spoke about there, and one of them I want to go back to, and that is the mission. So do you find these days like people maybe copy other people's missions? They don't really know what their own mission is, because they're just, influenced by all of the other distractions out there in the marketplace?
Absolutely. I think it's difficult to narrow down sometimes what their mission is. As an example, if someone wants to be a coach, they kind of want to help people. And so that could just be very varied, like who are they helping and why?
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, we look back at our own traumas and our own life experiences and our own work experiences as well. And there's often hidden gold there, right? And if you look and examine deep enough as to what the storyline is of what obstacles you had and how you overcame that, that's what you can be teaching people, and that's very, very specific and unique to you.
Yeah, right.
And so as an example, for myself, the reason I kind of weave in health and as well as, relationships and the things on the life side with business is because I had my own chronic health issues that, I went out to different doctors and I never really had some real tangible explanations for what was happening with me. And so I wanted to learn more. I wanted to get deeper answers to what was the underlying cause, both like emotionally and, thought processes. So I went on a whole tangent of learning many different types of modalities to understand myself better. And so now, a lot of the people that I serve, they might be founders, they might be business owners. And what I'm finding is that a lot of people are having kind of autoimmune symptoms of varying degrees. And that's because they're getting attacked both from the inside and the outside world from other people in one way or the other, or they're not truly, speaking their truth. They're not voicing what they really think, and they're suppressing a lot of their emotions. And so, that kind of combined with stress and the food chain supply that we currently have, right? All that whole mix together can actually manifest into specific diseases. And so that's really on the rise, is what I've found. And so, I first had to go through the journey of examining what was going on with myself. And then along the way, I found a lot of tools and modalities that I now kind of mix and match with different people to help them through whatever their obstacle is.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. I love that approach, that holistic approach. Do you find that not only do your clients get a better outcome in their business, and obviously, in business, most people want to make money, more sales, increase profitability. But do you find that, having that holistic approach, it actually leads to a well-rounded human being? So it's, those other areas aren't failing down in their life as well, like their relationships, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is correlated at the end of the day. So if you're suffering in kind of one area, whether it is profit, for example, the tendency is that there's actually another area of your life that's what is
Right.
the
Yep.
key to the reason behind your profit. It may have nothing to do with, let me add an extra marketing strategy to what I'm doing, or change that up. It may really simply be, I had a client, for example, that she would continuously have conversations with different companies, and they would be really positive about what they were seeing as far as her software, but at the last minute they would say no, and they would have no explanation about that. And so we really dig deeply into her past and her past relationships, and where she was continuously rejected by people. And once we looked at that, it was like the sales turned around overnight.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Right.
good. Yeah.
So it's just looking at what's the root causes, and a lot of the times that could be a lot less related on a tangible level to the problem at hand. It could be located somewhere completely different.
Yeah, right. That's really good. I once read many years ago that our life in business, whatever, it's kind of like a bicycle wheel, and the bicycle wheel's got spokes on it, and so your business might be one spoke, but your relationships is another spoke, and your health's another spoke, and your fitness is another spoke, and your mental capacity and endurance is another spoke. And if you take any one of those spokes out of a bicycle wheel, well, of course,
Yep.
we know that the bicycle wheel is going to not turn over as smoothly. So,
Right.
is that what you find with your clients? Once you align those other areas of their life, not only does their business take off, but also their relationships get better, and different things of their life?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why I use the term holistic, right?
Yeah.
It's like rather than, there's some coaches that are specialized in like one very niche area. It's like going to a functional medicine doctor for your business, because you're really looking at the interconnections of everything. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's important to take care of all the areas of your life. It's easier to say that than to actually do that. I think especially, in the society that we live in, we're not supported. We're not supported enough, both, from the government perspective, from an investment perspective, from our own networks, so I think that if we actually had a lot more support around us in general, I think especially for earlier stage companies, there wouldn't be as much pressure to be like doing and working so much and the creating that burnout, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's easy for me to say, yeah, of course, there's areas that we can work on one-on-one with people, to bring that balance, as much as possible. It's like in your body, like pH balance, right? You have to have a balance also in terms of the things that you're doing. And the doing and the resting, and that's really important. Especially, I think, for female entrepreneurs, I would say, there is this mix of yin and yang, and women are designed a little differently, that they need a little bit more yin, meaning more resting, more self-care, those kind more creative processes, and that's a slight difference than the actual going out and doing and contacting people and conquering the world, right? And so we definitely look into those different types of factors, but it's part of my longer term mission as well, to help support people in the connecting them to the right vendors and connecting them to the right support system, so that they don't have to do everything on their own and be super stressed and figure things out, like do multiple things at once. And I think all of that really contributes to the chronic stress that so many people have.
Yeah, that's really good. And like, you've spoken about a lot of different things there, and given us some really good insights to, someone getting better with their business and life and all of that sort of thing. But when people come to you for the very first time and they reach out to you, do you see that there's one or two commonalities? I know everyone's different and there's a unique approach to everyone, but is there some commonalities that you always see over and over again, and you go, oh yeah, there's those one or two things showing up again? And what, if they exist, what are they?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that as I evolve, my clients evolve as well. And so it's very interesting to see, where I help people, where I had certain issues like 5 years ago, I'm now helping them with what I myself kind of went through and was able to figure out. And so it does change over time. One thing that I've noticed recently, and this is something that I noticed, frankly, in my 12 years of working in marketing at different tech startups, is having this beautiful initial mission statement, and then it's like what we were talking about at the beginning. It's it just evolves into an entirely different business that they didn't really want to do in the first place. So they end up starting off saying, okay, we're going to serve the sustainability market, for example, and then later they work in financial services. It's just like almost the complete opposite, right? and their product has changed beyond, like, it's not even in the scope of the initial. It's like the Silicon Valley sitcom. You might as well call it a different company, you know?
Yeah.
And so the problem is that when companies are really in, a tight place where they need financing, they just take the financing from whomever is
Right. Yeah.
available and whoever approaches them. And it's really difficult when there's a carrot in the hand
Yeah.
to turn that down, right? Even though they may feel inside that this is the wrong decision to make, right? And so then you're committed to having a relationship with essentially, partners who are going to steer you in a specific direction. And unfortunately, not to badmouth in any investors, but like the way that they work is, they're going to push you towards a business model that they know will generate quick returns.
Yeah.
Um, within, let's say, a span of 5 years, ideally, or 10 years at the most, right? And so they push people into, for example, a SaaS model, software service
Yeah.
model, but it's not really conducive to what they're creating. Like, maybe it's really a longer term technology that is supposed to take time to develop, right? But they add this layer of whatever is like AI or something else that is going to impress investors, because they need the money,
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah.
chronic problem. Um, and I think it's really teaching people that there are so many different opportunities available out there. It's really empowering people to understand that they can create their own reality. And so if you are from the mindset that there are people everywhere that can give you money, then you will find those people. And if you're very clear about who it is that you want to partner with, then you can say no more easily
Yeah.
to people that don't really align with you. And so it's just really narrowing down that clarity, and being super specific and being really empowered to know that it's possible and it's out there, right? Rather than just kind of reacting and waiting for things from outside to come to you, right? It's like you are the one who is very, very focused on what it is that you want. And it's having that confidence that it's available to you.
Okay, great. So I want to ask you a quick question about, when people reach out to you for the first time, but what's one or two things that you give people, or someone's listening to this podcast at the moment and they're thinking, oh, that all sounds fantastic, but where do I start? So what are one or two things that you recommend people do straight away as they work with you to get, things aligned and things happening in the right way as they should?
Yeah, and for those who are really kind of on a self-development path, there's two tools that I work with people on. One is called Gene Keys, and another is Human Design. So there's some really interesting clues in there. Not only on it gives kind of a generalization on, here's the overarching problems you're going to probably uh, be pushed up against in your lifetime, and here's the gifts that kind of come from that. So those are really beautiful clues into what you're here to learn. But it also has some amazing clues about what your genius really is, what you should create around your branding and marketing, from a really higher consciousness perspective, and how you should go out into the world. So, for instance, I'm more designed as somebody who needs to kind of network and meet people more so in person, as opposed to, you know, attracting people randomly, right? And so
Yeah.
that knowledge can really change the way that I develop my own strategies. But that key information is located in human design and in gene keys. So if you're an avid enough reader and you love to look deeply into those type of things, then those are amazing resources to get started. But it's also something that I look at um, with people one-on-one and in my group programs on specific factors, and then I use different techniques to help people, release those shadows, release the underlying root problems that are not getting them to those gifts and to the prosperity that they're really looking for.
Excellent.
Um, so that's, kind of one space in if they're looking for, their own, I call it like self-actualization. All right. So really creating and designing a business around their own um, spirit. And then, I've also developed my own quiz. It's called Your Brilliance Archetype Quiz. And for those who are into energy, it's something that I, energetically downloaded. And so no matter what you do through the quiz, you don't want to overthink it, but you'll essentially get the right answer at the end. And what I've done is created essentially a guide for people to use this archetype in their business design as well. So that's another easy way to, think about different factors when you're creating a business.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And where do you see business going in the next 3 to 5 years? Like obviously with technology and social media and different ways of doing business has changed in the last 5 years. As a holistic business coach, where do you see business changing, if at all, over the
Mhm.
next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, that's a great question. I mean, I think people are a little bit fed up with social media the way it is now.
Yeah.
I know some people personally who are actually trying to develop new and different types of social media platforms, and I think that we're going to have a lot more micro influencers and micro
Right.
communities,
Yeah.
and those micro communities, networking with other micro communities and the partnerships that are a lot more organic and a lot more about forming authentic connections, which I think is what we wanted from social media, but it hasn't. The way it is has, I think, pulled us a little bit more apart than it has brought us together. Um, so I definitely see more of, I guess you would want to call it like network marketing, where there's just a lot of connections made around, uh, both having similar missions and maybe providing services in different ways, in different formatting, and all of those different types of providers coming together to serve a group of people. So I definitely see that becoming more of a trend. And, the other aspect is, people are getting more and more intuitive and they want more authenticity and ethics as part of the businesses that they work with. And so I've made it a concerted effort to look at the language that I put on my website to make it more inspirational than uh, than really grueling in on the pain points. I know what the pain points are, and to some degree, you can talk about them, but I don't necessarily, and I know a lot of people that don't necessarily like having calls with people where that is like the main necessarily focus, but rather it be about the aspiration of where they want to go and where they want to be. And it, from a neurolinguistic programming perspective, it's a lot better to write words that are positive, of course, to get people to actually, wire their brain to visualize and think about um, their future, essentially.
Yeah, that's really
Right. And
good.
so um, that type of positivity and authenticity, I think people are really, really craving for when working with other businesses. So I think more and more people are looking out for that, and they also care more about what you're doing in the background, right? Are you caring about your community? Are you, you know, giving to nonprofits? Are you involved in other civic organizations, right? Because we're all um, in this together. We're all one. We're all helping, hopefully, becoming more conscious, and doing our part in um, tackling, different issues around the world, essentially.
Excellent. Well,
Um,
Michele, you've given us some great insights there and some really good tips, and it really helped us a lot on today's podcast. But if people want to know more about you, reach out. How do they find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can come to my website, micheleparade.com. It's Michele, so with one L, Parade, Parad.com. And right at the top, you can look at my quiz. I also have a virtual retreat coming up, but feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to just connect with you one-on-one if you're hearing this, at any point in time. So I appreciate so much speaking with you, Cam. It was a great pleasure.
Excellent. Well, Michele,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.